Hello. Hi, Ale. How are you?
Hi, Monica. I'm good. How are you?
Oh, I'm good. I'm excited to have you here.
I'm so
Yes.
excited to be here. Ever since I heard about Rosita y Pepa, I was like, this is so
Yeah.
cool.
I love it. So, well, good night, everybody. Well, yeah, good night already. Here we're in the same time. So, Ali is in Miami. I'm in Tampa. And welcome to one more session of Grandma's March 2024. And just for those that don't know, this is an event that it's been going already for 4 years and it started inspiring my grandmothers, Rosita and Pepa. That's the name of the original project. And then I created this event just for people to connect really to that, let's say, grandmother energy, but goes like above and beyond the biological connection. It's more like how to really connect to the feminine ancestral wisdom and anything that is related to that. So yeah, recently I met Ali, and it was actually through my, can I say, my brother-in-law. Yeah.
Hmm.
It is true, who works with your mother. And he said to my sister, like, oh, I think she does something similar that Monica does. They work together. Both of you work with women. You should connect. So it was like probably what, 2 weeks ago that we met.
Yeah,
We met. I happened to be in Miami, and we met in person. We went for a coffee where we had some good lemonade. We didn't have coffee. The lemonade
I
was
know exactly. We had the lemonade, which I think had caffeine in it because I was energized
right.
after that.
Yeah. And then we chatted, and there we realized, like, yeah, there are things here in common. And I love it that you are connected to your grandma, and what you're doing is amazing because it's all, you're bringing ancestral practices of gathering women in circles, and you're going to tell us more about that. So
Yes.
yeah, and then we went to a breath work session that she told me is like, oh, do you want to go? I say, well, why not?
Yeah,
And
we
it
were
was
sitting
amazing.
there. I was
Yeah,
like, I have to go. I have to go to a breath work. Do you want to come? And you were like, yes. You were
yes,
like, well,
yes.
you're like,
Oh,
wait, let me check. And then you were like,
oh,
yeah, I'm coming in the middle of nowhere.
I know, right in the middle of nowhere, but it was amazing, by the way.
Wow. I
Yeah,
know. Super
yeah,
special.
super. So, okay, before we start, the theme of the year, it is every year I have a theme,
Mm,
and the theme of the year is it is time to revive our roots and ask ourselves, what did we do once we knew? And revive our roots is that idea of connect again to our ancestors, our grandmothers, where we come from, or our origins. And the question comes from a poem Drew Dellinger wrote, and basically he was just like, it's a call to action. Once we knew that everything that is going on in the planet, what are we doing about it? And all that you're doing is very connected to that, because it's like,
mhm.
okay, you're realizing women need the spaces to gather, to be there, to be together, to learn, to so you're doing it and it's happening. So I want to just do a quick intro, and I give you the space because that's the idea. This is for you to share. And Ale, she's a yoga instructor. She's a writer and an entrepreneur, and she was born and raised in Miami Beach and has lived in Italy, London, Costa Rica, many places. And now she's the founder of Nosotras, which is a women's circle and beautiful supper. Is like a supper club for women.
Mhm.
So yeah, that's all I will say. So the idea is that you tell us your own story, and start a little bit with your roots, and like where you were born and something about your family if you want to share, and that connection to your grandma, and we go from there.
Amazing. Well, first off, I want to say thank you. I feel so honored to be here, sharing the space with you and talking. It's just wow. Like I don't think I've had space to like talk about everything I've done, especially like
Oh, I
to
love it.
more people than just like my family and friends and people in my community. So to be able to sit here and speak on what I've done and what I've learned and how I've gotten here is truly an honor. So thank you for letting me have this space.
Oh, my pleasure.
So yeah, I could talk about where I'm from. So I was born and raised on Miami Beach, and I always say as well that I'm Cuban, even though I was born in Miami. Both of my parents are Cuban. Their parents were Cuban, and we go back Cuban like for many, many, many generations
Oh,
until, of course, you land in like Spain or Italy, wherever the Cubans came from. But really, I feel so Cuban. And it's funny because I know that being raised in Miami, I'm different than people who were born and raised in Cuba. I have
sure.
different cultural norms, but like mi sangre es cubano. Like I
Yeah.
really feel like my blood is Cuban, and whenever I'm around other Cubans, I just feel so like cozy, and it puts a smile on my face. Like even today, I was waiting for the elevator, and these guys just started speaking in Spanish, and they were clearly Cuban. Like you know the accent when you hear it, and
Yeah.
I just like couldn't help but like feel happy. And it's interesting when that happens. I would say my mom, although she was born in Cuba, she assimilated to the American culture very quickly. And my dad has always been super Cuban, like loves the music, loves the food, loves to take me to Little Havana. And I visited Cuba with him, and he's kept me close to my roots.
Hmm.
And my mom's family as well. She's one of 8 siblings.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so in gatherings with them, I hear the Spanish and I hear the stories of my grandparents, which is so, so beautiful. Both of my grandmothers were very, very special people. I was almost too young to know the first one when she passed away, but I remember vividly always going into her house. And anytime I have a twin brother, anytime my twin brother and I walked in, she would literally just sit there and clap.
Oh
Like
my God.
she didn't even like, it's not like we were so close to her that like she had dementia and she got older, but we walked in and she would just clap. She was so happy to see us. And I just remember that joy coming off of her.
Mhm.
And my mom would tell me like she's so joyful when you she sees you guys. Like it's interesting because she has so many other grandkids, right? But there was something
Right.
my brother and I, like the last ones, that she would just like be so happy. And then we had one other cousin after us. Um, and I don't know much about her, truthfully, but I do know that she was strong. I mean, to come from Cuba with 8
Yeah.
kids and to
Wow.
raise them in a city that you don't know and to put them all through school, and my grandfather as well. She was a strong woman, and I think so much of my strength comes from my grandparents and from my mom as well. Um, but there's something about coming to a new country and not knowing a thing, not knowing a soul, and just having to build it all up, that
Mhm.
I truly feel like invincible when I'm building anything in my life. I'm like, if they did it, like in the hardest circumstances, I can do it, you know?
It's true.
So that was my grandmother Irene, um,
Uh-huh.
on my
Eating.
mom's
Nice.
side. Um, and then Irene Fernandez Paglieri. She was had an Italian lineage.
Beautiful.
And anytime people meet me, they always think I'm Italian, so I guess that comes from her.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can tell you also have some Italian,
Yeah,
type. Yeah.
yeah,
I love
and
it.
when I lived in Italy too, my name's Alessandra, spelled the Italian way, so when I moved to
Yeah.
Italy, everyone's like, "Oh, you're Italian," because I started to speak the language as well. I was like, "Nope, Cuban." Um, and then my other grandmother, Evelia Rivera, Evelia Cruz Rivera, because Cruz is my last name.
Yeah.
She is a fallen angel. I
Yeah.
swear. Like, she is just the sweetest, sweetest person. And it's funny because when I talk about her, like, I just like light up. So I almost feel bad for my other grandmother. No, it's not like that,
No,
like,
it's not like that. And
I
it's good
got
that you
many
have
more years.
different, different personalities, different styles, and that balance as well.
Exactly. And I got many more years with with Evelia, which we called her for some
Wow.
reason Abatuti. I don't know where that came
Oh, you
from, but
don't know where it comes from. I love Abatuti.
I think, like, I think her friends called her Tuti, and
Oh,
so we called her Abatuti. Um, and she passed when I was 7, I think. I must have been around there.
yeah, very young.
Max, max, max. But I remember her like vividly. And I just remember like sitting on her lap. And there's something about like a grandmother's energy and like sitting in your grandmother's lap that's like the most soothing thing ever. I swear she
It
was just like a
is.
pillow.
I
You know what
love
I mean?
that. Yes.
Like, it's like a comfort.
Yeah.
Um, and she came from Cuba, and my dad and his mom and dad and brothers went to New Jersey, and they lived in they were from, and this kind of becomes relevant. They're from Pinal del Rio, so like the Vinales region of Cuba, the countryside, and it's gorgeous. If you've ever seen, have you ever seen Vinales?
No, no, never. So
So
what do
gorgeous.
you mean? Like they produce wine in that?
No,
Oh, okay.
they were farmers. They
Okay,
had
got
like
it. So that would
land and
be Viñales.
cattle.
Got it,
That
got it.
Vinales, yeah, that's the
Viñales.
name of the
Wow, how
area.
beautiful. No,
It's
no.
so
I
it's so,
never been
so,
to
so
Cuba, but no, I didn't know about that region. That must be
it's
beautiful.
really special. It almost seems as if you were in like Southeast Asia, the mountains, like you see those like
Wow.
capped mountains that are like that, just like covered in grass.
Wow.
Those are the mountains of Vinales. And so they had all this incredible land, and then they came to the US and they lived in a tiny, tiny apartment in New Jersey. And
Mm.
it was just like, imagine that, and it's so funny because when I was going to the university, my grandmother Tutti had already passed away, but I went to Italy. Like, I graduated high school and I went straight to Italy. And my dad was like, Abatuti would be having a heart attack, like you leaving to Italy. Like, I was in gymnastics when I was little, so I would do like somersaults and cartwheels, and she'd be like, "Oh my God, no, 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 they're saying yeah," like getting so nervous. And it's crazy because I think that like having to immigrate there develops a level of like fear.
I get it. They were
And
so brave, but imagine at the same time.
yeah,
Yeah.
so brave. And then this undercurrent of fear
Uh-huh.
that I
Yeah.
feel like through ancestral ties, like it almost gets passed down through generations, and then you
Mm,
hold the fear.
I
And
get
I've
it.
done a lot of like research on that as well, and like how these different characteristics get
Mm.
passed down. Like even emotional states get
Oh,
passed
it
down,
does.
imprinted through your body, through your subconscious mind to keep you safe, because this is what your ancestors had to endure. So it's like biologically, you get set up, and genetically you get set up to be able to endure something at the same level.
It is true.
Um, and so I tap into her a lot when I'm like going through things, or she'll like sometimes visit me in meditation or in any
Mm,
like hypnosis. And she was an angel when she was on earth, and she's an angel like now still for me.
I'm
Like once I
sure.
started, yeah, connecting to like the angelic realms, she was the
Mhm.
first person that came through for me, was
Wow.
Abatuti.
That was special.
Um, so I do feel very connected to her.
Mm, I love it. I love that connection with the grandmothers, as you're saying. It's like because there are so much memories and there is so
Mhm,
much of each of them in all of us that sometimes we don't even realize, and even from previous generations, it definitely gets
mhm,
imprinted in ourselves, and especially in us women, the connection to that feminine side or heritage.
mhm.
yeah, and the connection is the womb, actually. So we all
Exactly.
get connected to that, and sometimes we forget about that. So it's so important
Mhm.
because we all carry those stories, those emotions, the
In our
fears, the
womb.
braveness, right? We all carry that, and it's so important to connect and reconnect to that. So I
100.
love that you being so young are so connected to that, because sometimes I've seen a lot of people my generation or older, we are getting more connected to that. And I won't say everybody, but yeah, it's like, okay, yeah, it's like, I wonder now that I'm 47 years old. So it's like, okay, now I'm in an age that is like, okay, I'm getting wiser, older. So it's like, okay, I remember my grandmothers at this age. I could be a
Yeah,
grandmother in that time, you know,
yeah.
and yeah, so but new generations, I don't see that much connection, and I love when that happens. But I think when I was talking to you, one of the things that you told me is that women are craving for spaces to bring that ancestral feminine wisdom back again.
Mm.
and
Mhm.
and definitely me, like you're doing it, like, circle way, that is very ancestral, that comes from there. So it's important for us to remember and try, to do
Yeah,
it and reply it and heal ourselves, and because that's very powerful. Yeah,
yeah.
in there.
A
Hmm.
100%, and, like, I love the theme of, like, remembering. Like,
Yes.
once you remember, like, there's no going back almost, like, that first I
Mm-mm.
have a teacher, Allegra, who's such a special woman, and it was the Dia de los Muertos that I
Yeah.
connected with my grandmother because she hosted a yoga class for Dia de los Muertos and where we got in a very deep meditation, and I
Beautiful.
believe she has, like, metaphysical powers, and she really, like, drew in she's like, "Call in your angels tonight.
Mm.
Like, call in your ancestors, make them present
Yeah.
with us in this room." And there was, like, absolutely a heightened energy in the room. And
Mm.
in the meditation, like, it was so clear that my grandmother was with me and that I could access her at any time. And it's like you realize these things that and then there's no going back. It's
No.
like my other teacher said that, like, once you get gifted this level of consciousness, there's no going backwards. You can't you know this information now and you can't ignore it.
Right.
It's almost like God has, like, gifted this to you.
Yes.
It's
Yeah,
like
it
you're
is a
not
gift.
returning it. Like, it fits. Like, you're not returning it, you know?
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, it is true. And also, one of the speakers that I had in the previous, because there is all kinds of generations, all kinds of people. There was this beautiful woman from Sweden, and she's like a very special grandmother from very native people in Sweden. So she
mm,
carries a lot of wisdom, and
mm,
she was saying, once you are given a gift like that or the wisdom, you have to put yourself in service, because
mm,
it's not, you cannot keep it for you. That's so also, like, okay, if you receive something like as simple as that, as sometimes things are simple, but it's like, okay, you should be in
absolutely.
service and pass it and providing a way to to make others aware, or make others having, a, like, be able to experience for others, or bring them into the experience as well. So yeah,
$100%.
that's what you're doing. So I love it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and, like, how that kind of came through was, um, sometimes things will just, like, come through to me, like, it's weird. We talked about this when we were
Yes.
together. I call them downloads because I
Yeah.
feel like they're
Hmm.
literally downloading from, like, up above into my brain, like, it's weird, and especially when it, like, specifically feels that way. Because sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it's, like, a very linear thought form, like, "This side of my brain entered, and now I have this." Like, sometimes it really just feels like a higher power is, like, dropping it and, like, bestowing it upon me, and it was last year, so it was 2022 turning to 2023, I believe, and I was setting an intention for the year, and, like, I was
Hmm.
like I'd never done this before. I'm like, "What's my word for this year?" And the word that, like, came through to me was Shakti, which means
Mm,
the
yeah.
divine feminine.
Divine feminine. Yeah.
And I was like, "Okay, that's interesting. Like, let's I wrote it down in my notebook. I was like, Shakti. And then I get to my yoga studio to teach, and they're like, "Oh, the focus of the month this month is Shakti." And
Oh,
I was like, "Oh my God,
oh,
perfect. Like, that's already
the
what I wanted to
synchronicity.
do." So I
Yeah.
learned about this word Shakti throughout the entire month of January because at the beginning of every teacher's class, they talk about Shakti, and then we move into the yoga class. So I'm like, that's so interesting. And then I was somewhere doing I was with a friend and he was like, "Oh, you should come to this ceremony, this fire ceremony tonight." And I was like, "Okay." So I go to this fire ceremony. This incredible man hosts the ceremony. And then after him and I are speaking, and he tells me he's a Vedic astrologer.
Mm,
And I was like, I've never gotten a Vedic astrology reading. Definitely want to do it. I get on a call with him. He reads me my whole chart and he tells me, you need to do Kundalini yoga because you have a lot of Shakti in your body, like running
all of
through you,
it.
and you need to awaken this Shakti. Like, you can't just like leave. So now the word has like appeared like 3 times.
Mm,
So I start researching the word, what it means to be in your divine feminine, how being with other women illuminates your divine feminine, because we
yeah.
move from this place of being in competition with each other to being in community with each other. And that's the true way, right? Like when we
There
were
you go.
hunting and gathering, like in the past, with like our ancestors were, the men
Mm,
would go and hunt and the women would gather. And if your sister was picking a poisonous blueberry, you weren't going to let her eat the poisonous blueberry, right? You weren't going to let her bring it home in the basket to her kids.
right.
Like, you had to come together and you had to be a unit for the village to thrive and survive. And we've now, with everything at our fingertips, like, life is too easy. I saw a video and it was like, Americans are scared of war, but we're not no American is going to war anytime soon. We're getting our toothpaste delivered to our doorstep.
Right. There's no scars. Nothing is like missing or anything like that. You're
And so
right.
then we take
Yeah.
for granted connection,
Go.
and women become it's just we become too disconnected from one another because everything is just too easy, and there's no need for anything, because you have everything. But you go back to the roots of when we were in past lives, as I believe, and we are together, and the second you put women together, they remember.
Yes. It's
The
magical,
second,
right? Yeah.
like,
It's like magic happens.
yeah, and I started hosting women's circles, just like 3, 4 girls, my roommates, maybe another friend, and we'd sit on the floor in our apartment with our blankets and our pillows, and we'd put fire in the center, and we'd talk, and we'd do some breath work, we'd do some movement, we'd journal. We'd be like, all right, what do we want to do this month? Like, how do we want our month to go? How do we want our summer to go? And then things just started moving and happening, and it was crazy. I was like, "Oh my God, like, this is what you asked for in the circle, and now a month later,
It's
here it
happening.
is." And everyone was like, "Ale, like, this is nothing like this has ever happened to me before." Like, a friend was like, "I feel stagnant. I need a job." A month later, she has a job. Just because
Wow.
women came together and set an intention and believed in each other, and then boom, it happens.
Things
And
happen.
I'm like, okay, well, there's something here. And then I was speaking to my friend in Italy who has studied like menstruation tents. I don't
Yes,
know if
yes,
you've
yes. Like
heard
red
about
tents
this,
are,
like
yeah, red
the
tents and
red tent
menstruation tents. Yes, yes. That's
and
very
the
ancestral
kibbutz
as well.
in
Oh,
Jewish
yeah.
culture as well.
Yes.
Growing up on Miami Beach, I mean, I was born and raised Catholic, but I was surrounded by all these powerful Jewish women, and they told me about their culture and their heritage with kibbutzes, and red tents are in every culture, in
There.
Nepal, in Africa. And
Everywhere.
it's crazy when you research it, there nothing positive comes up. It's like, this should be illegal. It's They're forcing women into exile, and it's like, no, like,
That's nothing like that.
it's nothing like that.
That's not the idea of it, right?
It's like they banish them because 'cause they're dirty, because 'cause they're bleeding. Like,
Oh
that
my
is the
God.
opposite of what they're doing. They're coming together because they need each other, because they're sensitive and their intuition is heightened.
Mm, mm.
So they need to be together, and because maybe almost only they understand each other in this sensitive time in their life. And my friend was telling me about these red tents. I'm just turning on a light here. About these red tents, and I was like, "This is fascinating." So I started researching that, and I realized, like, women coming together is an ancient practice.
It
You
is.
study Celtic witchcraft, and on the summer solstice, on the spring equinox, which is tomorrow, the spring equinox is tomorrow, women come together and they celebrate and they call in the changing of the seasons and they plant their seeds for the future, and it's so simple. It's
So
like the
simple.
most simple thing ever, but nobody is holding the space to for it to happen.
Right.
So I knew I needed to do something with this, but, as so many things in life, we don't believe in ourselves,
That's the problem. And women, especially women. Yeah, we all
especially
do
women.
not. Yeah.
And then there's kind of going back to, like, ancestral, um, like, beliefs being passed down. It's like, if everyone in your family has worked super hard and no one was an entrepreneur, and no, like, everyone took a career that was safe, and I think that's what, like, immigrant parents almost have to do, right? My grandfather
Of
was a
course.
banker. My other grandfather was a factory worker. The women stayed at home to take care of all of the kids, and then my mom, who was such a, like, queen, like, the most ambitious, driven, supportive person ever. She goes into sales. My father's a banker and a politician. And then I'm here and I'm like, I want to host women's circles. And
Nothing
they're like,
expected.
not a job. And I'm like, yes, it is. But they believe in me. And
That's so
now
wonderful.
I almost had to, like, do it and be like, "Okay, I got a professional photographer. I, like, studied marketing and branding in college, so I made this incredible brand. I put it together. I launched my first dinner. It's such a success." And I show them and I'm like, "Look, like, this is
This is
nosotras,"
my
which
job.
of the women's circles.
So beautiful.
And my mom goes, "You're really onto something." She's like, "You're onto something, like, this is good." Aquapana and San Pellegrino message me and they're like, "We wanna give you the water." I
Wow.
have other brands messaging me, "We want to give you, beverages." And I have, like, it's just, like, so many things happening, and I had to believe in it for other people
Right.
to believe in it. And
It's
now
true.
I just
To-
got off of the phone with a mom who is she's in her late 30s, and she found Nosotras on Instagram, and she's like, "I wanna host a women's circle for my birthday for all my friends instead of
Oh,
going to."
how beautiful. Right. Yeah.
One of them is going through this, one of them is going through that, one of them just lost their job, blah, blah, blah. Everyone's in turning points. I think we need this. She's like, "But what is it? What are you doing?" And I tell her, she's like, "That's exactly what we need." Like,
Wow.
it feels familiar because even though nobody's been in a women's circle before, the second they drop in,
Yeah.
it's like
It's like they remember, they know it.
they
Yeah.
remember. And all of the jealousy, all of the competitiveness, nowhere to be found. Goes away. I have a friend who can get
Right.
kinda like, "Ugh," with other women, like, not in a bad way, she's not a mean person at all, she just I think it's like she almost gets scared because she's been, like, bullied or whatever,
Mhm.
and so I see the way she, like, tenses up around people. You put her in a women's circle and she's there, she's present, she's holding space, she's receiving. All of it just, like, falls away. So that is what nosotras is, the circle aspect, and then the supper,
Yeah.
everything is, like, kind of evolving. Like, you have an idea, and then I say that, like, an idea or a project or, a company, it has its own aura. and it has
It
its own
does.
spirit, like the same way Rositas y Pepa like has its own
Ah,
spirit. Like
yes,
we
it
had
does.
the idea, but then all these people came into its sphere and interacted and helped it become what it is today.
It's true.
Yeah. So as I was like thinking about these women's circles, I got a thought. I don't know where it came from, download, because I had never had this
Again.
thought before. And it was like supper club. Really, it's just a dinner, but like the word supper club adds like it creates like a different thought. Like when you hear a dinner, you're like, "Oh, we might be in a restaurant, we might like just be in our kitchen, we might." But a supper club is like it's a club and you're eating supper, which isn't like a word we use today. So it again brings back that like ancestral like remembering. So
Yeah.
it's a supper club and I was like, "Okay," like I just that word just came to me and I was like, "Well, I can't cook. So I can't host a how am I gonna host a
Summer
supper
club.
club?"
I know, right?
And then I remembered a chef that I met on the fall equinox, which will be 6 months from
That's
tomorrow,
so interesting.
and we were both, like, talking and in crisis mode. I'm like, "I need to quit my corporate job." I was working at, like, a top consulting company, and she's like, "I'm in medical school, like, da da da." And we were like, "We can do this, we can do this." And then, like, 6 months later, we hosted our first supper together.
Mm.
And it's lighthearted because the circles can be really heavy because you're moving through a lot of stuff.
Yes, a lot of
You're
emotions, feelings, energy. Yeah.
And so the suppers are a time to just feast, and, like, that's, like, a word that they use in, like, Celtic witchcraft, which is basically just, like, the same thing, like, covens are just women's circles, where you work with the land, like, the word witch has, like, a very negative connotation, but being a
Okay.
witch is just being someone who is committed to their development and is in tune with the earth,
With nature. Yeah.
with nature, yeah.
Yep.
And so we feast and we're light and we're happy and we laugh and we don't drink alcohol, but we drink like seltzers and spritzes and we eat amazing food and we laugh and it's great. So that's nosotras, kind of like in a nutshell.
Oh my God, that's beautiful. Like nosotras, yeah. As soon as I knew it, like I need to talk to her. I need to understand more. I would love to listen. So we have the Instagram here at Nosotras Miami, and Ali is doing this amazing work and these amazing gatherings, suppers. Oh my God! And I remember you telling me like with the chef, she does everything like she with the cycles or with the seasons, right? Like
Yeah.
very connected as well to ancestral practices, and and
Mhm.
and definitely the practice of doing a ritual or sitting together to eat food, that is also very powerful. It's almost,
100%.
yeah, it is a way of doing a circle or a ceremony between women and celebrate and do a feast, like you said. So yeah, what do you ambition? Like what is coming for the future? What do you dream with this? Like how do you want to create an impact with all these beautiful things that you're doing? And
Yeah.
the best thing is that you're so connected to your essence, to your ancestors, to the energy, to everything that you're downloading, and you are just manifesting it. It's just
Mhm.
you're just being like a vessel,
Hustle.
or yeah, you're just like, okay, I received the call, I will go and do it. And that is the way that things really flow. So
Yeah, absolutely. So something I forgot to mention is, and this is an evolving idea and theme within Nosotras, but my intention was to keep it like the circles, especially within my generation, like women in their 20s and 30s. And I sometimes like that's hard for people to understand. But I think when you're holding space with women of the same age, it creates like an even less judgmental environment. It's like, don't worry, like this person is not going to go like tell your mom what you said about like so and so or how you're feeling, you
it's
know?
true.
And
Yeah.
and so I've had to like kind of create this container which it can be a delicate dance because it's like you want everyone, but then it's like there needs to be like a specific like energetics and safety in the space for it to work. Um, and then I'm already in the works with you as well to create experiences and events where it's of all ages,
Right.
of all genders,
Intergenerational. Yes. Yes.
intergenerational,
Yeah.
intergender as well. I'm
Yes.
hosting like a nosotras ex nosotros, which is like a
Yeah.
mezcal brand that we're gonna do like a heart opening ceremony with men and women, which is super
Yeah.
powerful. Um, but my goal is to create like really a safe space for women to see each other, to grow and inspire together. And long-term vision is really to have this global, like to have this not just Miami based. I have friends in New York City, I have friends in Florence, in London. So the long-term goal is to be able to take this in Copenhagen and do dinners all over.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
and I believe in it so much, and I know that the second you experience it, you believe in it too. So I know it'll happen. Like that is not, it's not even like an option for me. It's just like this is what's happening now. So that's the goal for nosotras long term. I also envision a space where, oh my God, I didn't even say this. There's so many aspects to it.
I know.
Um, so we host these circles on the new moon because the new moon is the reset. You said you had something at 7.
Yes,
Okay,
7:30, but we still have like a couple of minutes. So
okay,
yeah.
perfect. Just let me know.
Thank you. Yeah, no
Um,
worries.
so we host every new moon because the new moon is the beginning of our cycle. And so when women have their period, that is technically their new moon.
Yes.
So even if you're not like on your bleed when you have the circle, it's like a reset button for your month. So that's why we do it on the new moon. And then even longer term is to have a circle at each phase of the moon. So we have our new moon, and then we have our waxing half moon, then we have our full moon, then we have our waning half moon, and then the new moon again. So once a week, you're coming back to this space. So you don't just like forget about it. And the process of integration and coming back is like so important because it's like if not you just carry on in your daily life and the work isn't as transformational as it could be. So the goal is to really be able to meet once a week, and come back into community with each other.
Mm, wow. Ale, I'm so like, this is so delightful the way, and I'm so honored to have met you because, like as I said before, I love that you are like the young generation that is bringing these roots back into everybody, and I think that is the way that probably the younger generations are gonna like feel safe in doing it. As you said, like, okay, I will hold these containers, and that's why I sometimes limit the ages because they will feel safe. Okay, it's different that if you put a lot of people and it's not the same. So
Mhm.
I love what you're doing. I really wish that this goes as much as far as you dream and even farther. I love
Thank
that I met you and that we connected, and definitely we're gonna collaborate doing something together. Maybe bringing the ancestors and all this connection to the grandmothers and
I
ancestral
would love
feminine
to
wisdom.
access our
Yes,
ancestors. Like
yes,
Halloween, I did a ceremony with my two best friends where we accessed our grandparents and we lit candles for them and we invited them to
right.
feast with us, and
It is true.
it was so amazing. And I was in Mexico recently, near El Dia de los Muertos, and we did a ritual for our ancestors again. And the more you told me this, like the more you nurture that connection,
Yeah.
the easier it is to connect to
It
them.
is to connect. It is true. And the more you start searching for your memories and for them, for their stories, they will be closer. So yeah,
Exactly.
that's something we're gonna do together anytime soon. When we have more information, we will bring it out there. And
Exactly.
yeah, and I want to thank you. Thank you for sharing, opening your heart. sharing your story, your personal story, your connection to your grandmothers, and all the beautiful things that you're doing with nosotras. And I wish you the best. And yeah, we keep connected. This is not going to be the first one. Well, we already have another. We already have two sessions together. This is
Exactly.
the third one of many others. And
Yeah.
yeah, I love
Oh,
it.
I'm so grateful for what you're doing as well, because
Thank you.
we forget that we come from such a rich line of humans with experiences, and all of that is tied into us, especially as women, right?
Very true.
We carry like what is it, 6 generations behind and
Yeah,
6 generations,
seven. That's what say
7
seven. Seven
generations
generations
behind
behind, and seven is what we should
forward.
connect and yeah, work for. Yeah. So yeah,
Incredible.
let it be that way for the next seven generations, and let's connect to the seven back. So thank you,
Exactly.
Ali, for doing what you're
Thank you,
doing.
Monica. I'm
Okay.
so excited.
That was amazing. Well, thanks everybody, and you have a great night. We're going now to another live with a girl
So
from
fun.
Colombia. So yeah, yeah, stay tuned for more on Grandma's March and whatever is gonna come from this collaboration. So thank you. Have a good night.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Bye,
Ale.
guys.
Kisses. Bye bye.